it estimates that it will spend $578,480 for the remaining 2 years of the contract's initial term. That would increase the total cost just for the initial term to $2.1 million, which is above GPA's threshold. So GPA is now requesting that the PUC authorize the expenditure or an increase in the contract's price to $3,296,277 for all 5 years contract. In my legal counsel report, I found that this request is reasonable, prudent, and necessary. Generally speaking, it is reasonable in light of the increased demand for diesel fuel oil for these pumping sites. It's prudent, of course, because if these sites aren't operational, that would have quite a negative effect on our wastewater, drinking water systems, and could potentially cause greater liability to GWA. And then finally, it's necessary because GWA relies on electric pumping pumps to operate its pumping stations. Without the electric pumps, without the electricity operating pumps, it then relies on diesel generators to keep these pumps going. And I've submitted a proposed order. If desired to grant this petition. Thank you. Subject to your questions.
Thank you, Anthony. Any comments from GPA?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, this is a full contract for us, and the request is for the expenditure authorization, and it's not necessarily the amount that we will expend, but because of the protocol, we are here to ask for your.
Any comments from the commission?
Yeah, just looking at the chart that we got here, 980 also expended in 2023. Expect to stay on that as a now, we're going to have to say no all the years. I think the prediction is high. If the our system is good, you won't. If we go back to 2022, it's only about 30. 2021, it's about $4,000. But you can see $179, they got high food. So, you know, I'm just gonna experience the 578 kind of high. So, we're not gonna have another high. If we didn't do that, just gonna.
So we kind of averaged our projections based on historical data, and like I said, it is an authorization for expenditure. We're not anticipating we would need to use all of these funds, but we're already near the threshold for the 1.5.
No, I'm just showing you that it's not probably for you, but not for you.
Jennifer, is it the case that even though we're well beyond the typhoon level, we're using these smaller generators quite a bit to use up shedding presently?
So it's only during those times when we're experiencing some outages with our plants. So they're not running on a daily basis. It's when we have harvest or some of the base loads down, and we need to avoid those shedding, we turn on these generators to help mitigate and lessen the need for load shedding.
Thank you. Any other comment?
Condition of these generators, are they new or refurbished, or are they need replacement?
So we did actually in the November CCU meeting put up a resolution to replace the generators, and we'll be presenting that to the PUC in next month's meeting. So the generators that we are operating now are nearly 30 years old. Most of them are new series.
See you next month.
Anything else? Is there a motion? Favor?
Only good one.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second to the motion? Joe seconds, all in favor, say aye. The motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, GPA. And I think there's also something listed here for GPA filing of FY 2023 approved contracts and obligations for informational purposes only. Any comments at all? Okay. Thank you. Merry Christmas. Next item is CAG docket 2401, petition to ratify insurance coverage. We have an ALJ report, a proposed order. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So KG's contract for insurance with AMAM was reviewed by this commission back in September of 2022 when it approved the contract award to AM for insurance coverage at an initial estimated premium cost of about $3.5 million. The term for this contract is from October 1st, 2022 through October 1st, 2027. And at this time, KG is returning to the commission for approval of the fiscal year 2024 renewal terms for such continued coverage, specifically coming at a cost of now about $4.9 million. This renewal covers up to $55 million in blanket coverage for physical loss and damage to all real and personal property, which includes coverage for losses due to earthquake, flood, typhoon, tsunami, as well as a loss of revenue, business interruption, and the like. And this coverage comes at a cost of about $4.5 million. Which also insures about $278 million in port assets. The coverage also includes about $50 million in marine liability at a cost of about $325,705. There is also coverage for directors and officers liability of $5 million, $2 million in automobile coverage, and $1 million in crime coverage. The total cost for insurance coverage for this fiscal year increased by, according to PAG, about $1.4 million. And as indicated in the report, the increase is reflected only in the rates for property insurance and automobile insurance, while the other rates for the other lines of coverage remain the same. And according to AM Insurance, which was included in PAG's filing, the increase in the property premium is primarily due to the global catastrophic losses. They indicate that there's about an industry rate hikes, which have been routine and are expected between 35 to about 50% on loss-free policies. They also indicated that the increase in PAG's premium for property insurance is reasonable given that there has been an increase in PAG's property values, as well as an outstanding claim due to damage caused by Typhoon Mawar. And specifically, with regard to the outstanding claim, it involves a $50 million claim filed by PAG relating to property damage and business interruption caused by Typhoon Mawar. In addition, there's about a 30% increase in the port's property values for fiscal year 2024, which increased from a stated value of about $246 million to now it's about $278 million. But AM has indicated that the extreme weather events worldwide appear to be increasing, resulting in carriers raising their rates, especially in areas exposed to catastrophic events, or having carriers pull out from the market altogether. In fact, even today, I believe that there is a severe storm that's battered the eastern seaboard of the United States. So that, these types of events have an impact on the rates for property insurance. They also mentioned that inflation is driving up prices for goods and services, which has a direct impact on insurance costs. And that with regard to automobile insurance, because the port had added 4 automobiles to its insured fleet, that has also increased the automobile insurance premium. With regard to board approval, when the board of directors approved the port's fiscal year budget for 2024, they also, in that board approval, authorized the GM to present any matter to the PUC without any prior board approval during instances where the board would lack quorum due to pending legislative confirmations. And so pursuant to a certain survivability clause that was made a part of the 2024 fiscal year port budget, the GM has been expressly authorized to present to the PUC any matters that require such presentment. And so, Mr. Chair, based on this record, I found that the purchase of insurance coverage was reasonable, prudent, and necessary in as much as it safeguards PUC's assets from risks such as natural disasters and catastrophic events. Also, this commission has historically highlighted the importance of maintaining insurance coverage, since such insurance benefits ratepayers with regard to the protection of the port's assets, and that clearly insurance is crucial to PAG's operations, and that without such coverage, for example, the devastating effects of the past typhoon would have been fully and fully absorbed by the port. Additionally, the port has to also maintain insurance in order to be in line with the bond covenants, which provides that the port has to maintain insurance necessary to protect its interests as well as the interests of the bond owners, enough to afford protection in amounts and against such risks as are usually maintained by prudent operators of ports similar to PAG. And if not, then the port could possibly be in violation of the terms of its bond indenture. And so, like I said, Mr. Chair, based on this record, I would approve the renewal terms with AM for the coverage indicated in the petition, which comes at a total premium cost of $4.94 million for fiscal year 2024.
Thank you, Joseph. Any comments from the board?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just for the record, your official with me is Jojo Guevara. He's the CFO, and Annie Sablan. She's the acting procurement manager. We come to you tonight not for a approval, but rather ratification, and as explained in the both ALJ, the precarious situation that we were in coming off of the Typhoon Mara recovery. We were in our case this year, it just wasn't the issue of maintaining insurance within a reasonable rate. We know Ms. Anne-Marie Winnet tried really hard. She always does work really hard for us every year to get us the best possible insurance premium within reason. From what we understand, because of market conditions, the challenge was just to even get insurance for the port. Given the pandemic, given Mawar, given our $50 million claim that was very public in the market. But notwithstanding that, the fact that we don't have any structured governance at this time, we also appreciate the commission recognizing the port's survivability clause, which we anticipated this legislature, whatever reason they have for not wanting to confirm the governor's nominees. We anticipated this when we asked them to approve the 2024 budget. We asked them to provide a survivability clause, and what that meant is that if we don't have a legislatively constituted quorum, that I would have the authority, the statutory authority, the budget will roll over, I would get a 3% spending authority, but any procurement that's over $1 million that requires a board resolution to come before the PUC, I would have that authority without having to have the board adopt it. And so we have two lawyers at the court, one former Judge Cantor and Jessica Koff, who both worked at the Attorney General's office. You know, they crafted the language for this budget act. Maybe at the same time you deliberate on this ratification, I think I would appreciate as the general manager, maybe a message to the legislature that Port Authority cannot continue to operate without the kind of governance and structure that's needed. The bond market, one of the reasons why we went from a negative bond rating to a positive bond rating is because of strong governance and strong leadership. And we have the strong leadership, we have the governance in the sense that we have the survivability clause, but for an autonomous agency not to have a duly constituted board, I think I'm asking for your support to send a message to the legislature that they should never allow an autonomous agency such as the Port Authority of Guam to operate in this manner. And I saw your confirmation hearing. I saw the allegations that some senators made. That kind of environment there's no place for that. And if they want to be specific about the allegations they're making, maybe they should. But now in this case, we come before you asking for ratification, but it should come with some kind of very strong message to help us appeal to the legislature that they just have to act on the governor's nominee. Senator Guthers is one of the nominees. She missed it by one vote. We're asking them to reconsider. There's other two nominees, the former board chairman, and the other one is Louis Baza, who was just given his honorary citizen doctorate from the University of Guam. He was a former deputy general manager of the port. They're stuck in committee. You're a very influential body. I think I'm out of line here by asking for some kind of support. But that's what the PUC provides. They provide the kind of guidance in terms of rate setting, but also the kind of support that you guys provide to us autonomous agencies in terms of structure and governance and making sure that we're operating within our enabling legislation. And I would be concerned if I was on the other side of the table to see an autonomous agency such as the Port Authority of Guam operate without a board. We have two board members, but yet we don't have a quorum. And I thank you for even allowing me to be here tonight with our team to entertain this ratification and these kinds of conditions, accepting that survivability clause. Otherwise, like the proposed order suggests, if we don't have insurance coverage because of some technicality by not having a board to adopt the resolution and present to the PUC, it's going to have such kind of domino effect in the bond market and also the exposure that we would have should we have some kind of other natural disaster. So that's my appeal to the PUC, and I wish you were voting on the governor's nominee, so you could do thumbs up or thumbs down, and don't play any more games. But the report is we went from a negative $105,000 in 2019 to 2018 to the $26.4 million cash position 5 years later. We're not out of the woods yet. Governor just came back from DC trying to advocate for all of Guam's party concerns in the port, certainly one of them, for the replacement of the entry trains and fuel tiers and other capital improvement projects to put in the context of national security. We're convincing all the DoD people, congressional people, White House people, but we can't convince people in our own backyard. And I don't want to operate in this kind of context where I don't have the kind of governance I need from a board. We can operate, but I just don't want to operate in this kind of work.
Thank you for those comments, Rory. I think we probably can do something to have try and get you guys started with the Well, presently, you only have two commissioners, out of 5.
That's correct, Mr. Chairman.
2 directors. Any other comments from the commissioners? Yes.
What's the status of the claim that property versus business construction and funding preliminary
Yeah, so Anne-Marie has a check tonight for 2 million. And I think that's not to pay for half of tonight's premium. I'll turn over to Jojo, but we do have some business interruption claim and some.
2 million for this interruption, that's 30 million for profit.
the 2 million is for what? Partial payment on this physical.
So it's going to be applied to the business first, because those are the ones that bring us to the expenses of the current business idea.
And so have you heard anything on the 13
The damage is a majority of our properties, our buildings, and also our pier, our golf pier specifically. When that actually is around 25 million, so we submitted it to also for replacement. Those are the damages. So far, we have just submitted they are working on it.
FEMA's doing something a little different now. Before they used to restore prior to the disaster. Now they're looking at a replacement in the context of resiliency. And so they're talking about replacing Gulf Pier because they're aware that we lost the Phil Pier. So now we're operating under one Phil Pier. So there's a Typhoon Mawar resiliency project. Congressman Moylan has introduced a bill in the Congress to fund all these typhoon-related damages with GPA, GWA, the airport, portability, all these other government infrastructure projects. And so these are all part of how the island is going to recover from typhoon Mawar. But he asked a really good question because the $2 million that we're going to receive is certainly going to help us with our debt service ratio. And that's perfect timing for it, as we prepare for the audits.
So the claim is 15 million, so you received 13 million already, or there's a timeline on the 13 million?
We're just the opposite. We received 2 million as an advance, and we're still working through the balance, the 13. There's more information that we have to provide. We're just working through the agents and the reconciliation of our claim versus the judgments.
And a separate question regarding, you don't have a functioning board now, as far as timelines on replacement of the two branch cranes in 2026?
Three.
But one's 2029, two's 2026?
One is 2026, the other 2028, and the third one in 2030.
As far as that, those timelines are gonna stick?
No, that's the service life extensions for these three cranes, that's what it is. And so we have a MARAD grant that's pending for the replacement of three gantry cranes. MARAD hasn't made a decision. In order for them to make a decision, they're also working on the waiver of the Buy American requirement. And so it looks like in this recent commitment that DOD made to the governor in a whole of government approach and a one Guam approach to build up, you have all the different, like the Secretary of Navy, Secretary of Army, all these different branches of military government talking to NARAD about the port's application for the gantry cranes. But we're also exploring other grant opportunities, including potential USDA loan if those things fall through.
Just a comment, I was reading on all your projects, most of them have partial grant funding. I just wanna say that's something great.
Actually, about $40 million in this year's fiscal year budget, $40 million are coming from federal grants.
All going back to your board, you said that, Senator Peppers, off by one.
Yeah, she's a serving board, and then she was reappointed, and then she was reported out to the floor, and then she only got 7 votes.
And then what about the other?
They never made it out of committee now.
Oh, there's still, who the governor to make the nomination?
I'd say beginning of the year, summertime, I mean, within the year.
You know why?
I know why you want me to say why.
This is the first time I've heard.
It's so much, I know this is a public meeting, but,
Either reject outright.
well, it's so much to the, it's hilarious that one senator said that Senator Guthrie was my girlfriend, and so she then had to, at a public hearing, said, you know, Senator Tidically, Senator Station and I are not romantically involved. I never thought I would be in a room where Senator Guthrie would have to publicly denounce that she's not my girlfriend. It just the kind of things that you guys were exposed to at the confirmation hearing that you went to. My wife was at the confirmation hearing, and you're too close to Rory. How can you make those decisions? But then you look at where the port was at versus where the port is at today. And if you talk about them being rubber stampers, what's the problem? They're not rubber stampers, they're independent thinkers. She teaches ethics at the University of Guam. They're all professional people. Louis Gaza stands up for the merit system. They're being blamed for the 7 wrongful termination cases, and that's why there's some senators who don't want them to be confirmed, because there's some senators who are, I wrote a long letter on this, and it's been the subject of back and forth in the media. I just think that if they separate all of that and look at the 4 clean audits for the last 5 years, we have national and local transparency awards. This is what we have to deal with. The facts and the record is very clear. We've got a lot of support from the PUC. Thank God you don't participate in that kind of a innuendo, but if you look at the facts and the record and judge us based on that, we're doing really good. But if you're going to, which you don't, look at it otherwise from that perspective, we're not doing really good. And so the employees look at that and wonder why the governor's nominees don't get the support from the legislature, and it hurts morale. And so I have to spend time, you know, as their coworker, telling them stay focused and don't worry about that. Meanwhile, you look about transparency. I didn't have a board meeting in November. I didn't have a board meeting in December. And the board meetings are online. I think it's an opportunity for the public to, a general manager's report is at least 30 pages. And so that's where we talk about everything that we're doing. We don't get that public opportunity. But the upside to it is I don't have a board that can fire me, so maybe that might force them to get a board.
So it's Bedford's,
Frank Zonjo's. So if you have any friends down there, I think they're really close.
Just a quick question, Roy. So when was the governor's appointment, and then when was the confirmation hearing? Like, how many months? And then the vote?
It's obvious that it's stuck in community. Yeah.
You said sometime in June.
It probably before that, I think probably, yeah, the timelines escape me, but it's obvious that there's a concerted effort not to get it passed. I spent 14 years down there, and Senator Brooks knows this as well. There's an obvious effort to block, you know, there's an effort to move it, but not enough votes to sustain on the floor, and so.
I'm just trying to figure out at some point, when does the governor try to reappoint? So that you can have your point. It seems like you're operating without your board for months for everything support.
Well, they acted on their directives last month, so I don't think they're gonna have session in December. Maybe January, there might be a reconsideration. Maybe by February, if they just don't reconsider, maybe the governor might have to send another name down. But if there's 7 votes and it's so close, then But then they have to, but what people are seeing from these legislative hearings, it's very hard to get people to want to serve on these boards and commissions. That's the other issue.
Yeah, I think that's the challenges that we face as well in terms of finding the independent commission, where the politics. So, I understand where you're coming from. I'm sure from a big standpoint that something that we do in our terms of also there to take care of it.
Or like,
It's a letter.
or maybe an amended order.
Okay. Separate from the order, we'll probably do the initial letter. That's music, like to do the reports.
I would appreciate that.
We'll have a state.
Could you further clarify how, what FEMA's action is to respect the state?
So FEMA, right now with Galpier, they didn't agree to do the scope of work with Galpier. Now it's going through the whole FEMA process of trying to get approval for the replacement of Galpier. Yeah, usually they restore to pre-typhoon condition. Now they're looking at replacement for resilience.
So no mitigation responsibility. So, thank you.
You all have one.
Hi, Rory. So I'm concerned, look is kind of know the process of how this matter came before us, because I'm concerned about the fact that you have two board members. Obviously, that's how we operate about it. In terms of the survivability clause, you've got good lawyers there, or I know that they drafted the language, and I wanted to know, is this, the survivability clause was not in the budget that was approved by the legislature?
And so our budget's approved by the board.
Okay.
And so the board, before their terms expire, in addition to approving the 24 Budget Act, we don't go to the legislature. So in addition to approving the Budget Act, there's the survivability clause that says that if there's no board that time next year, that there's authority for FY25 budget with a 3% increase in spending. And anytime there's procurement that's $1 million or more, that the general manager is authorized to go directly to the PUC. Only when there's a quorum that does not exist because of the legislative issue. So that if there's a quorum, but there's no quorum, I cannot just come to the PUC. We wanted to make it clear that only if it's a result of the legislature not acting on the ordinance. It was crafted that way, so it was, I don't wait till there's no quorum and then come to the PUC or.
I just, the concern I have is just that, how was that, which prevails, the enabling law or the survivability clause that passed by the board, or the enabling law, does the enabling law require that the board authorize the submission to the PUC? Maybe our attorneys.
In our contract review protocol, normally, before a matter comes to the PUC, it must be accompanied by a board resolution.
That's not something that the board's statute.
No, but so what our lawyers argued, and we didn't have Jamie send something, is that the board delegated that authority at the time to that survivability clause.
Okay, so I'm thinking that maybe we approved tonight, that maybe there could be some language that says that once you have a board, you get ratify the submission. I suggest that way it cleans it up so that there's not any suggestion later on that we've done something that's not been properly done without really avoiding the process.
Pedro, you want to say something?
I think Commissioner Pangilinan also indicated in the contract review protocol is that it does provide some leeway to the commission and the ALJ to sort of allow for certain non-typical type of filings. And it's at the discretion of the ALJ, I believe, Mr. Director. Yeah.
I guess my only concern is if it's the board resolution versus the enabling law, the statute passed by the legislature. As long as that's not the case, what we're talking about is a contract review protocol that the PUC has the authority to.
We can act as well as currently, this is a ratification of the existing, right? Yeah, it's, and then, so now we're ratifying content. Or just the thing we get in place.
I would suggest that maybe that would help to cure any potential defect, because I don't want anyone to come back later on and challenge the validity of this.
There's always a doctrine of emergency, and I think the court actually fits that pretty well. What else can GM or CCO do at this point? It needs the insurance required by the bond companies. There is no functioning board, so kind of emergency action or impossibility for him to get a board resolution could be a justification for approval. But I think your idea is a good one, including something in the one that is really constitutional. Come back and ratify.
With that amendment, I would look to approve the order.
Second. Joe seconds, all in favor, say aye. Pedro, you're an aye? Oh, you're an aye. You're an aye. So unanimous, Doris, are you an aye? Okay. Thank you. Go ahead, Ron.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, hopefully we get a report soon, but this will not be the last time we have to come before the PUC. We have a procurement let out for some 5-ton forklifts, some gensets, some heavy equipment, and they're going to be well over $1 million. And so we're hopeful that this survivability clause is the instrument to which we can still engage with the PUC to approve these procurements. But it would not be a ratification at that juncture, because these are procurements that we're just issuing out.
Let's hope we have an ordinance by then.
Definitely. All federal funds. All federal funds.
Well, one more thing, Roy, on the technical issue. So when they do the 3 new gantry trains for fuel, at the fuel pier, we're going to be in a position that next time we get hit by a big typhoon, the level of survivability and functionability after a typhoon will be much higher than really after.
Well, we recovered in 3 days, so there's just easily recovering 2 days.
That's all right.
Thanks.
Yeah. Thanks, Rory. Thank you. Merry Christmas to everyone at the board.
Is that a rehearsal check?
Should have had an armed guard here, Anthony. Next item, we're going to skip up to GWA docket 1908. Petition to amend the PUC's September 28th, 2023 order regarding filing deadlines, review timeframes, and submittals required for GWA's FY 2025 to 2029 rate application case. We have an ALJ report and a proposed order. This Mr. Reckon.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, I'm sorry, again, I have to recuse on the GWA docket matters. Unfortunately, much as I'd like to be involved in every matter, GWA is the client of our law firm, so I have to recuse on this.
Thank you, Mike. Mr. Pangilinan is recused from all GWA matters this evening. Go ahead, Fred.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. So this is a procedural motion that GWA has brought, and it really involves two aspects of the upcoming 2025 to 29 rate case. And I point out again, the case hasn't even been filed yet. There's no case pending right now. But the first item that GWA is asking for is an extension of the deadline for filing its FY 2025 to 29 multi-year rate plan. Let me give you the background history. On September 28, 2023, and this was in the true-up proceeding to establish the 2024 rates, the PUC in its true-up order stated GWA shall file its next multi-year rate plan on or before April 1, 2024. Now, the reason that order was passed was to assure that there would be sufficient time to hear the rate case. It was filed in April. The proposed schedule would be that the rate case would be resolved by the end of September 2024, so there could be rates in effect for 2025. GWA has indicated they don't like that deadline for this reason. The way it works now, before an agency files a rate case, they have to give public notice under the Ratepayer Bill of Rights. And in this case, if their filing of the petition is due April 1st, GWA would have to file its public notice with the PUC on January 1, 2024. And GWA's argument is that they really are unable to do that. It's not tenable, is the phrase they use. So what they're proposing, and this is the reason they're coming to the PUC. And on this issue, I think it's appropriate because there's a PUC order. The PUC already weighed in on when the rate plan would be due, April 1st. So when they presented this issue to me, I indicated, well, an ALJ could not change the PUC order, but they would need to make a petition to the PUC to have the commission agree to change the deadline that it ordered. What they've asked is that the deadline for filing the multi-year rate plan be extended to June 3rd, 2024. And if the commission agreed to it's really asking the commission to amend its prior order, the true-up order in the rate case. If the commission did that, then the public notice would not be due until March. It has to be 3 months before the filing of the rate case. So March, April, and May, it would be a 3-month period there. So GWA has argued that that's more something they can do. Now, I would say, first of all, public notice is not a complex document. It's created in the statute, but it basically only requires some very rudimentary facts. That is a general idea of what amount of a rate increase is requested for each year. It's usually, it can be a few paragraphs or just a basic idea of what the rate filing for the next 5 years will involve. I first feel that there's really a question whether or not GWA could complete the project by April 1st to do their filing. They've known about this deadline since September 28th of last year. They would have had over 6 months, and well, they would have had 3 months this year to prepare the figures that they were seeking in the rate case. And then they could file the notice on January 1st. So I don't really accept their argument that it's not possible. And a reason I feel that is because in the true-up case, CWA repeatedly told us that a high true-up award was necessary because there were going to be tremendous rate increases for the 2025 to 29 period. So GWA already, even last year, going back to June when it filed its true-up matter, they had a pretty good idea, at least developed idea, of what the rate increases would look like in the rate case. But although I feel that they could file the petition, I do not buy their explanation. I do feel that they should have some leeway as to when they file the rate case. If you look at our statutes requiring filing of a petition, they don't really set deadlines in the statutes. When the rate case is filed, it's left up to the utility. So I can see an argument that they may, at this point, GWA may not feel it's quite ready to file its case, and for that reason, they're asking an extension. In terms of what they've asked for, under their plan, in March would be the public notice filed. On March 3rd, they intend to file something called an advance petition. And then on June 3rd, they would file their rate plan and possibly an amended petition. We've never had a procedure like that in the history of the PUC. The problem is that they may change their advance petition. So what they file on June 3rd will not necessarily be the same. It could be new, it could have different matters. And the problem there is if their final case really is only going to be filed on June 3rd, that gives us 4 months to resolve it. Now I can tell you from the true-up petition, that, which was a one-year proceeding, or a one-year rate case, basically, took more than 4 months to finalize. So I think they run a big risk here. GWA has been blaming the commission for not acting timely on its prior rate case and causing an insufficient amount of rate revenues. And this delay in the filing could actually result in the commission being unable to address the rate case by the end of September. But again, I weigh that against the right of a utility to determine when its rate case will be filed. And I think the statutes support a discretion to the utility. But for that reason, I do support extending the deadline in the manner that GWA requested. So to accomplish that, in the order, I have provided an amendment to the September 28, 2023 order of the PUC, which would provide for this procedure of filing an advance petition in March, and then the final 5-year rate plan in June. But I think the PUC needs to make it very clear that the risk of not completing the rate case is entirely upon GWA. And given that they've complained in the past about the timelines and the resolution in a quick manner, it potentially could pose problems. But the order would approve that extension, and I've included specific language in the order to change the deadline from April 1st to June 3rd. There's basically one other issue that they've included in this. And they have a number of paragraphs in the petition which are talking about analytical studies done in this upcoming rate case, that is the 2025 to 29. So remember, again, there's no rate case filed yet. The rate case, the advance petition, won't be filed for 3 months. The 5-year rate plan won't be filed until June. Yet, GWA is coming in and asking the commission, not an ALJ in a rate case, asking the commission to make all kinds of determinations, analytical studies, or what are the requirements. That is, they want one ruling that there will be no additional studies made without a determination on whether the studies are necessary to support GWA's next rate application. That issue is not properly before you. It's pure conjecture. At this point, there's only one analytical study that we've already agreed to. That's the staffing study. Whether there will be any other studies, we don't know at this point. Let's see what they file. Once they file something, we can determine if they need, if we need additional studies, if there are issues that have to be addressed. But this is like a case where a party would go to the court and ask the court for a ruling on discovery before there's even a case filed. The way this is usually handled is that at the beginning of the rate case, when GWA files its notice of intent to file a rate case, and certainly when it files a petition, the ALJ will sit down, do a scheduling order. At that time, the ALJ will determine what discovery is necessary, what outstanding studies might be required, but not in advance. For GWA to try to come to you as commissioners, they're trying to get you involved in the details of a rate case that hasn't even been filed yet. And that's not proper. Those decisions are in the first instance left up to the ALJ, the consultant, and GWA. And those are hashed out. But it really makes little sense for the commission to address issues that are conjecture at this point. They're not even before you. So there's really no need until a rate case is filed to address any of these matters. I also think GWA is trying to add requirements for a determination on the PUC that aren't in the statute. You know, they're not something that's presently required. There are some other things they're asking for. Again, they talk about delay, and they talk about studies have somehow delayed the rate proceedings. You know, we can argue a lot about what caused the delay in the prior cases. One is that GWA did not allow our consultants to have access, full access to the RAM model. You remember they were trying to put protections on it. That delayed the ability of our consultants to address the case. And another issue was during the evidentiary hearing, ALJ Alcantara in November conducted what is like a trial in a rate application. The application was filed June of last year. Right in the rate adjudication itself, GWA filed an entirely new petition, an amended petition, which was quite different. Georgetown objected, it wasn't granted. But anyway, we could go on in this. I mean, I'm going to ask GWA, let's put this argument about delay aside, but I don't see any delay caused by studies. In the last rate case, there were 7 studies. They were all agreed to by the parties, and they were all submitted timely. But there's no need in this case, before anything is even filed, to be addressing these issues. So the best course of action is to deny anything on the analytical studies. I don't think the commission wants to be in a position where every time there's an issue, even a potential issue in a rate case, that you're going to be directly addressing it. I mean, that's an issue of what study is needed, schedules, things that the ALJs always do at the beginning of the rate case. So my suggestion is on the second aspect, it's not proper to address analytical studies that are pure conjecture at this point. They've tried to impose requirements, as I say, that aren't in the law. And let me tell you what the law says. This is kind of a final argument. You know, GWA might want to limit the ability of the PUC to order analytical studies or discovery. But the law is absolutely clear as to what rights the PUC has. And 12 GCA section 12108 states, every public utility shall at all times, upon request, furnish to the commission all information that it may require respecting any of the matters concerning rates and charges, revenues, and expenditures. These requirements that GWA is attempting to interpose here about analytical studies, they're not supported by the statute. The statute gave the PUC an unfettered, unlimited right to demand anything from GWA that it thinks is necessary in a rate case, whether it's an additional analysis, if that's what is required. And what happens, for example, if GWA in its rate filing in June comes up with some different issues or different requests for which we don't have a study? Would the PUC be prevented from ordering additional analysis? It's just not proper to go down this road. So I'm going to urge that as to any of the requests about analytical studies that haven't even materialized yet, that the commission deny that. And the order I propose would be. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred. GWA, any comments? Chris?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the record, Teresa Rojas, on behalf of Guam Waterworks Authority Council, present before the commission this evening is Acting General Manager Christopher Wadowski and GWA Chief Financial Officer Colin Titano. So we do need to respond to the ALJ's report and the proposed order for a couple of reasons. First, simply put, the reason this petition was filed was because in September of 2023, the Commission issued an ordering provision as a result of the FY 2024 true-up. So the ordering provisions are orders of the Commission. And in order to comply with the ordering provisions, we required an amendment. I know the ALJ has taken the position that GWA can possibly complete its rate case, and meet the ratepayers' Bill of Rights by January 1st, 2024. I mean, this is less than 18 days away. We are representing to the Commission that it cannot be done. And that's why we're seeking an amendment of your order in order for us to comply with a provision. We have no intention to really request for an extension. We have every intent and want to meet the April 1st deadline. The only issue is that the law also requires that we file a notice in a newspaper of general circulation informing ratepayers what our proposed rates will be. And we don't have those numbers, and we won't have those numbers in 18 days. But can we have a sufficient and complete rate filing by April 1st, 2024, as the Commission initially requested and required? Yes, we can. And we still propose. That's why we've asked the Commission to keep the April 1st date, because we have every intent to meet the date. The only issue is that we cannot meet the ratepayers' Bill of Rights. So we intend to file the 90-day requirement in the post, informing ratepayers of what the proposed rates will be prior to submitting the April 1st. We called it an advanced draft petition only to meet the ratepayer Bill of Rights. But we are hopeful that the Commission can begin their review in April, just as planned. It was planned for the commission to receive something from GWA, a final rate filing in April, and we plan to comply with all the requirements and the PUC's rules of practice and procedure to complete a complete package for a 5-year rate application in April, and that is our intent. And so we asked the commission to keep the April 1st date so review can begin early. And the only reason that there is a second date, which is the June date, is again to meet the ratepayer bill of rights requirement. And so we've come to the commission, and we believe properly, to request that that ordering provision in the September 28, 2023 true-up be amended, and the ALJ has recommended that amendment, and we appreciate that. But I just wanted to clarify that, again, GWA is hopeful that the review can begin in April, and we be able to respond to RFIs, requests, any schedules, that are required or that need to be amended in order to meet a sufficient review timeframe before October 1st, 2024, beginning of the fiscal year 2025 period. So that is our first request. The second request, really should have been clarity on GWA's part. There should have been clarity to confirm with the commission whether they required any other study besides the staffing study, which again was ordered by the commission in ordering provision number 5 in the September 28, 2023 true-up order. That again is an order of the commission, and that's why it's in this petition. There was never an intent by GWA to bypass the ALJ, to try and jump over the ALJ and the consultants. The only reason we raised in this petition is because there was an ordering provision already requiring a study. So GWA only wishes to confirm with the commission whether or not any other analytical studies at this point will be required. And the ALJ has given his position, and he stated his reasons why, why he is arguing that, of course, that request is premature. And so he stated it's premature, and so we're left with, of course, the only requirement, which is to provide a staffing study at the time we file our rate petition. I do want to raise to the commissioners some concern with the ALJ's report and the proposed order that was provided. At different points, the ALJ says that our request to the PUC was premature and inappropriate. But at a specific point on page 7 of the ALJ's report, the last paragraph, and page 4 of the order, again, the last paragraph, there is a sentence that reads, GWA's requests for confirmations before a case is filed. GWA's request for confirmations before a case is filed, advance requirements for notice to GWA, and restrictions on PUC's right to conduct discovery are also illegal. He's stating that our requests to the commission are illegal. Commissioners, this petition is a publicly filed petition. It is transparent. This hearing is live streamed to the public. These requests are made as a result of ordering provisions. There is no want or intent by GWA to usurp the PUC's authority. And although this statement is made that GWA's requests for discovery are illegal, there really isn't much argument beyond this, because in other places, the ALJ has stated that the same requests are premature and inappropriate, entirely different from being illegal, which infers that GWA is being dishonest with the commission. These requests are merely to try and create efficiency. And these are what the PUC rules and the PUC practice has been about. Efficiency in terms of, filing a rate petition. We don't argue with the ALJ's position that The PUC absolutely has an unfettered right to request for discovery at any time. That hasn't been argued. But I submit to the commission that there has not been a request to restrict the PUC from doing anything. This petition, again, was filed in good faith to try and to create efficiency. If a decision cannot be made on whether analytical studies are required at this point, we accept that. But I do ask the commission to strike from the petition the line that states GWA's request for confirmation before a case is filed. I'm sorry, strike from its order that GWA's request for confirmations before a case is filed, advance requirements for notice to GWA, and restriction on PUC's rights to conduct discovery are also illegal. Without this sentence, the position of the ALJ doesn't change. The position of the ALJ is unchanged without this sentence in the order. I recognize that the ALJ's report is his own, so my request is really for the commission to strike that sentence from its order if it decides to accept the ALJ's recommendations. Nothing further from me.
Molly, yes.
Thank you. My name is Tony Taitano. I'm the Chief Financial Officer of the Guam Waterworks Authority. I joined GWA in September 2019, well after the last financial plan had been submitted to the PUC, and it was already under review by the consultants. And so this would be my first experience before the PUC with regard to the filing of the rate plan, from the beginning. And I want to thank, on the outset, the ALJ for his willingness to agree to a modification of the order and clarity to what might be required with regard to any studies. When the order was received in September a couple months ago, the first thing I did immediately was talk to my budget folks, knowing that we needed to try to meet the order. The next thing I did was I went back to the PUC protocols and the public law to see what procedures were necessary to ensure that, we met all the requirements needed. And noticed immediately that there might be some issue with the 90-day ratepayer filing. And yes, it is would be fairly easy to do, but we would expect that if we did the filing, we would need to go before the CCU. We would have to do we would, go through the budget, ensure there's a CIP, the 5-year CIP plan, develop the revenue requirements, get the CCU to approve that, pull the plan together, make the ratepayer notice, and, start the process. And knowing all the things that were involved, we're just concerned about the time that was needed to ensure that we had a product that would meet all the requirements. And so, I immediately spoke to the GM, to our legal counsel about the timeline and whether, what could we do to strategize so that we could meet the spirit of the order. Certainly the request was not made to, it was in the spirit of transparency. We wanted to ensure that this next 5-year plan would meet the timeline so that we could have a rates in place by the beginning of the next fiscal year. And in order to do that, one of the things that we had suggested was perhaps if we did the filing in March, April, that the PC consultants could begin to look at the document and make, start their discovery, make RFIs, so that by the time we reach the June filing, that most of the questions should be answered. And that if, any additional information was required, that would be provided. It was certainly not, not intent, the docket was filed in the spirit of cooperation, looking for opportunities to be efficient so that we could meet the timelines. And, we certainly, again, appreciate the ALJ's recommendations. And, I am looking forward to working together cooperatively so that we can meet the timelines as best we can. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Chris, you speak too.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, I'm Chris Budowski, the Assistant General Manager of Administration, also the Acting General Manager at this time, here on behalf of Mr. Verdalia. I just want to add to the discussion on the second point of the petition about the analytical studies. So, we don't have an objection to providing whatever information the PUC needs to adjudicate our rate case. But sometimes these analytical studies generally have a long lead time, especially if they're complex and there's a procurement requirement. So, I don't know the exact timing of the 7 analytical studies from order to submission. I believe it was at least a year, if not longer. And so I think what we were trying to clarify and get some type of maybe agreement on how this would work is it's very important that we adjudicate that 5-year rate plan by the end of 2024, September 30, 2024. And the reason that that's important is for a lot of reasons, but one reason is the compounding effect of the rates and having a path forward on our CIP projects, at least in the sense of a 5-year budget. Now, in the last rate case, we had 2 modest 5% increases that were stipulated to in years 1 and 2. I believe there was another modest increase of maybe 8% in the 3rd year. In the 4th year, there was no increase. And then in the 5th year, we had the large increase to try to make up for what had not, increases we did not get prior to that. And, some of the things that we've said, but maybe it didn't come across in some of our filings or some of our reports is, part of what transpired within our utility was it caused a lot of deferred maintenance because we didn't have enough money to do certain things. And we only had a certain amount of money available to us and we had to spend it according to priority. And because of that, there was a lot of deferred maintenance. We also didn't pay out increments to our employees. Just now, this year, right now, we are paying out the FY21 increments to our employees. And we still have to pay 22 and 23. And that's because we didn't have the cash to do it. And then there was also the issue of the debt service penalties, which we talked about back in September, which have gotten to points that we would consider to be very low and not a place we want to be in. And so, not having a rate plan at the outset of that 5-year rate plan adjudication is troublesome. And if we have to wait for analytical studies to be done in order to adjudicate that 5-year plan, that's where we're coming from, I think, with that request. So we're not opposed to it. If in the filing, the consultants or the ALJ want a certain analytical study, we'd be happy to provide that, but we would hope that the order would let that study be taken up in the next true-up as opposed to the 5-year rate plan. So if we could get that 5-year rate plan adjudicated in a timely manner, we can handle those other issues in a subsequent true-up. I think that's really what this is all about, kind of in a nutshell, is wanting to make sure that we're on firm financial footing and that rate plan goes through in a timely manner. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Yes, I'd like to respond. Now, Mr. Bugasi said that if the analytical study would delay the rate case, it should be handled later. If and when there are any issues about additional analytical studies, that issue would be appropriate to bring before the ALJ. And if the ALJ looked at it and thought that it wasn't necessary right away, he could make that ruling. But the problem is, and maybe I'll start with the illegal arguments first. And frankly, I don't really mind either way, whether you want to keep that in the limit or not, but I stand by it. Let's see what requirements they were putting in their petition. First of all, no additional studies except the staffing study required by ordering provision number 5 shall be made without a determination on whether the studies are necessary to support GWA's next rate application. My objection there to that determination is not in the statute anyway, and it is, I believe, it's contrary to the ability of PUC under the statute I cited to conduct discovery whenever it wants, at its request, at any time. So if you start putting restrictions like this, requiring a determination of some sort or other, it's not in the statute, that is contrary to the public law I cited, requiring that we have the right of discovery. It's contrary. It's inconsistent. And I say it violates it. That's why I call it illegal. I think that, the restriction like that would violate the right of PUC to conduct discovery upon request, any information it may require. But when you start putting determination requirements in there, that's the first one. That's not the only one. There are a number of other restrictions. At page 3 of the petition, GWA shall complete and comply with PUC's order for the existing study, the staffing study. But if the completion of any additional study is ordered, requiring additional time and costs, GWA requests to be informed as early as possible and further requests the PUC confirm that it shall consider whether there is a need to delay action on GWA's rate application if the study cannot realistically be completed. These requirements aren't in the law. They're imposing all kinds of additional requirements that, again, I think it violates the right of the PUC under 12 GCA 12108. So that's why I said it's illegal. I do feel they are requirements that are not consistent with the statute. They're contrary to the intent of the statute. I think my description is accurate. I will leave it entirely up to you, whether you feel comfortable with it or not. But going back to the first argument, just briefly, I did recommend extending the deadline. I know Ms. Rojas said that, well, we can't have the numbers within 15 days. It's not 15 days. They knew about the filing requirement on April 1st, on September 28th. They had 3 months to work on this. And from what I've seen a lot of public notices of rate cases. They're all very brief. And again, I really do believe that they already know these figures to some extent. I attached Exhibit 1 to my report, and it states, page 8, ongoing CIP planning indicates that GWA's capital encumbrance requirements over the next 5 years will exceed $900 million. So if you read through this excerpt I put in, and this was filed April last year, they have a lot of knowledge of the numbers in the 25 to 29 rate case. And in fact, as I mentioned, in the true-up proceeding this year, they continually argue that the PUC has to give them a large 2024 rate increase because of the pending huge requirements of the 25 to 29 rates. So they've had a lot of knowledge about what those requirements are. But again, that's kind of not too relevant at this point because I have a very good extension, but I still do not accept their arguments for why. And Ms. Rojas referred to the advanced draft petition. That's actually not filed on April 1st. I believe it's March 3rd, 4th. But it's an advanced draft. It's a draft. It's not even a final rate filing. Now, I know they're saying, oh, we're going to try to make it compliant with everything, but whatever you say about it, it's not a final filing. And that will not occur until June 3rd. So the whole idea of a draft petition, it's very undeterminate. We could not proceed, the PUC could not proceed to a resolution based on an advanced draft petition. It has to be a final filing. And their June filing could be quite a bit different. We just don't know. But that's the problem when I have with the advanced draft petition idea. They can say it's a complete package, but what if they want to change it? What if they do change it on June 4th? Those are the problems you could come up with. Now, also, Ms. Rojas talked about having the commission, the whole idea of the advanced draft petition is so that the petition can begin review in April. I don't think the commission needs GWA to tell it how to proceed, how to conduct discovery. We've handled many, many rate cases over the years. As I said, the ALJ at the beginning of the case will set a schedule. We'll know exactly when discovery is going to occur. But I think, again, it's a little presumptuous for GWA to argue about triggering our undertaking of discovery and that we can begin it early. GWA does not need to advise the PUC about when it conducts discovery because the statute says that. We have the unfettered right to conduct it when we want and according to our schedule. And we have always proceeded diligently with discovery. And so I don't think that really says much to the advanced petition. I don't think we need to trigger it. The PUC can determine that for itself. Now, on the analytical studies, I think pretty much PWA seemed to concede that it's premature since there are no, other than a staffing study, it's not contemplated at present. It hasn't been considered whether there will be additional studies because there's no case. The case won't be finally filed until June 6th. But maybe only then that the PUC would know whether it needs any further studies. But certainly all these concerns that GWA is bringing about, will it delay the rate case? Could it be done for another year? That can all be considered in the context of the rate case. It's just not really, I think, appropriate for commissioners to get involved in those kind of procedural discovery issues before a case has even begun. You always designate an ALJ to handle these matters, and those are exactly the kind of issues that the ALJ should handle in the context of a filed rate case. I don't believe I inferred in any way that what GWA did was dishonest. I think it's misplaced, and I do think it violates the statute, but I never used the word dishonest. And I don't feel I made any moral judgment on their request, but I think the request is unnecessary, yes, and premature, and also that it violates the statute. If you want to call that illegal or not, change the phrase, it violates the statute, but I don't see any implication in anything I would that called someone dishonest. And I think I understand GWA's concern that the rate case will proceed in a timely fashion. The PUC always has that concern. With the true-up proceeding, I made sure that we strictly adhered to schedules. Still took us 4 months to resolve the true-up. But we will always do that, and I have committed from the beginning to do that in this rate case. But I think that GWA is bringing up a lot of issues, not only in this petition, but in other correspondence, where they're asking things that don't need to be done. They're complicating the process, not helping. I think bringing things about the analytical studies at this point is not really helpful in getting the proceeding underway.
Thank you, Ted. Do you want us to comment on anything, or are you okay right now? Fred, what if we just took that sentence that's kind of rubbing them a little harshly right now and just change the word illegal for inappropriate? That'd be appropriate?
That's fine with me. I have no private office on that, as I said. I think it is illegal, but I don't have a problem with that.
Being that the last 5-year rate case we had was a relatively rough road and rather acrimonious much of the time. In the interest of trying to get this one off on the right foot, let's just take some of these little matters right now and just make it a little softer.
I'll change it to inappropriate. I would also ask GWA to stop trying to blame the commission for prior rate cases, which they've always argued about the delay, and even in these papers, everywhere I'm seeing this, they want to keep litigating that issue. And I'd like to put that behind us. This is a new case. Although we haven't issued the docket assignment, it's no longer 1908, it will be 2405. It's an entirely new rate proceeding. And I don't think we need to go back and argue about who's responsible for delay in the prior rate case, when probably, in all likelihood, both parties deserve some of the blame. But it's not that, it was all caused by one side, that's for sure. So with that understanding, I can, I'll change that.
Any comments from the commissioners? Doris, comment?
Yeah, regarding Fred's comment, PWA said that you're going to file something on April 1st. So what is it that you're going to file?
It's called an advanced draft petition. So my only concerns are, it's a draft, which means it's not final. It could be changed later on, but that's what they will file. So they're saying it'll be in the form of a petition, pretty much, and meet the normal filing requirements. But it's still a draft.
But I guess my question then would be, do they file a final petition?
Oh, they have to wait for 90 days for the ratepayer petition. I think you guys correct me if I'm off base on this, but I think they feel like they're going to be ready with the final by April 1st.
Yeah, that would be good.
But they're going to do the advance in March 4th. They really can't roll with the final until June 3rd because of the 90-day time. Correct?
That's correct, and I think the intent.
Why not?
The 90 days.
It is a clear petition.
You have to have public notice 90 days in.
So, Doris, it's the ratepayer bill of rights. It requires a 90-day notice before a rate case is filed. So they're going to do it here so that they would file the public notice on March 1, and then their final 5-year rate plan, June 3rd. So then they would comply with the 90 days.
Do you anticipate you'll be sharing with us what essentially would be the final petition on June 3rd by April 1st?
Yeah, that is the intent. The intent is what is submitted on April 1st would carry into the final rate filing. And if there were changes, it would be, something significant, and it would be pointed out to the commission what had changed from the initial filing to the final filing. But we have no intention to make any changes, but something may come
when you file something as final,
April 1st, they'd have to announce it January 1st, they're not ready for that.
So we would have to present what we're saying is final on January 1st, essentially, to the public. We need the 90-day notice to file the additional final submission in April.
They feel they need 2 extra months to be ready, which is why they want the advance petition.
But it's a draft, really. The draft, just a draft.
Do you anticipate that the draft is going to be quite close to the final?
Yes. That's the intent.
Yeah.
We don't.
But they have to meet this 90-day,
So let's say
public
we
announcement.
have 90 days, we have this number.
when would they be ready for the 90 days, I guess, is my question.
March 4th.
Or March. Yes. But if you file
This
in
is my
March,
district, like they also,
so you want to file not in January, but March for the ratepayers bill rates. And your intent is to have it close enough to the rates that you're going to be requesting in April. But should those rates change, are we required to give another 90 days to these new rates? Because it's not the final rates.
You mean on the public notice?
Right.
Ratepayer Bill of Rights doesn't really address that. I can say there have been many cases where the utility filed one notice, even in the last GWA case. It was far different than what GWA finally argued for. So, but I know of nothing requiring a new public notice. I mean, I think the public notice is to give the public an indication that there'll be some changes in rates. The utility tries to make it as accurate as possible. And then later on, there are also the public hearings where the public would get a chance to see any updates.
So it's just
will that have to be?
no, that's the March. That's the March, they're going to file this draft in March, this rates, do the public notice. Then we're going to fine tune those rates, and then in April, right? And then that's what you'll be presenting to the commission in April as the new rates for the 5-year study, the 5-year rates. Now, getting to the analytical studies, we're asking for the staffing requirements, right? So, but what about the other 7? That's just
They're all done.
all the others.
They were completed in accordance with
Those
ours.
are already done, okay. So now this is, so they don't have to do that anymore, it's just the staffing studies currently is what we're requesting for, right? And I remember there were some issues on the rate, model, and granting the access, and I think,
GWA has said that there is access now. I haven't fully confirmed that with our consultant, but I think they are allowing access.
result. I have no issues with changing right now. Well, rate cases are pretty complicated to get in, but it's, right now I think we're just writing over timelines or whether or not, the April 1. So it's supposed to be April, but they're asking for June?
Yeah, right, you had ordered, the PUC ordered an April 1 deadline for the filing of the 5-year rate plan, right? But they're asking to extend that to June 3rd. Yeah, but then the draft petition will be filed
March, because of the June. If we push it back to June, they can file the draft in March, but we're still gonna see the actual rates in April. But the actual.
No, we'll probably we'll see the rates in March.
We'll see the rates in March, but the actual before us will be in April. Are we still meeting in April?
I anticipate it's probably going to be pretty close, if not.
Are we still meeting in April for this rates, judgment, for this rates case? We're still meeting in April, or is it going to be in June?
Oh, no, that's just,
So just put it back here.
it probably won't be till
I
September.
thought they said their intention was to meet April 1, and they can't do it.
Well, they're doing that through the draft petition on March.
If there was not a 90-day window for the announcement on the ratepayer bill of rights, they feel will make the deadline by April 1st, as we originally ordered.
Right. I think that's,
But it's still
For the
the
final.
same draft, and I'm,
In their opinion, by April 1st, they're gonna have the final. Right, Chris?
still the same, even though it's final.
It's not final.
And so,
I know.
because it's going to be still the same draft.
Right. But their impression is that will be fine.
It will only be final on
June 3rd. Right.
can I just clarify, in the draft order, it states GWA shall file an advanced draft petition on or before March 4th, 2023. So I think it's amending the April 1st deadline to March 4th, if I'm understanding that correctly. Is that correct, Mr. Grundy?
Well, the draft petition is really something new, advanced draft petition.
We've never done it in this fashion.
That's why I spelled it out, because it's never been a part of our rate case procedure.
Mr. Chair, I don't think we should do it that. I mean, we're starting something again, another unprecedented thing, and it's happening again. I mean, even the true up, the RAM model, you didn't get the details of how that came out and was calculated, right? So we need funding for GWA, so. In January 1st, we do the public notice, does GWA have to have their proposed rates of what we're gonna look at in the final, on April 1st, the final petition? Are those rates supposed to be presented to the public on January 1st? In that notice,
If they were filing their petition on April 1st.
on April
But
1st?
here they're not filing their final until June 3rd.
So why are we getting an advance petition? That's just gonna cause further confusion.
Well, that's to move the case along, because before then, the PUC, the way things stand right now, the PUC won't have any idea at all what GWA is proposing in its rate case until March 3rd.
But then if the final is filed, if the final petition is filed on June 1st, then the PUC will only have July, August, and September,
Yes.
and whatever changes we make for the 25 to 29.
Well, I think the hope is if they file their advance petition, I'm sure, knowing the way we work at the PUC, that we will certainly look at it. And likely, we will begin discovery at that point.
Correct. So then if the PUC is wanting more information for clarity, because we didn't get that with the RAM model, if we want more information for clarity, we will only have 3 months to get all this information, correct? If it's to be effective, if we're to approve it, when are we going to approve the 25?
Okay, for the June 4th date, the commission will still have 4 complete months. And if it gets the draft on March 4th, then, let's see, March, April, May. So it will have 3 additional months, so total of 7 months.
What
And
they're
that
doing here
is-
is speeding up the discovery process, basically. We're gonna be allowed to do discovery by March, because we're gonna have a fairly good indicator and idea of what they're aiming for, other than waiting till June.
Then that just throws the whole process different. The whole procedure will have changed, because then that would have the other utilities coming and say, well, we need this much to do this advantage petition, so we're sort of, it's double work, right? It will be double work if anything changes from your draft to the final in June.
We're not double, Howard.
I went back and I took a look at the prior filings, and typically we file in June and hope for a September for a decision in September, so that it can go into place in October. My understanding is the reason why in the last 5-year plan, we had a May deadline was because we had all of those analytical studies that were submitted in March to be worked into the financial plan submitted in May to give some additional time for review. But typically, it's my understanding that the rate filings have been done in June.
Okay, and if I recall correctly, when we asked for those other studies, wasn't at the time we had raised the issue with Mike, are you sure you could get those done in time? And he assured us, Miguel assured us that he did, and they did, right? We did get those studies done in the right time.
Just to clarify, just add on to what you're saying, so it sounds like they're just moving the timeline down, right, from April to June. Because if it was in April, you would have filed your rates possibly, or bill rights in January, right? And even if you did that, and you had those numbers, you were able to file it, come April, could that have changed anyways at some point, right? Based on whatever information, whatever additional studies, we could have actually changed those numbers anyways in April, correct? Right? Is that what could happen anyways, right? So all they're doing now is they're just saying that we're not ready to publish any rates yet, right? And so we want to move from April to June, and we're just going to do it in March. That's exactly it. As well as remove the legal part. Because then, this is just the beginning of all the other hard work that's to come, right? So right now, it sounds like, in a nutshell, they're just asking to move the goal volume a little bit down, and it doesn't change anything, really.
Whether you call it an advanced draft petition or just a public announcement, you have to announce by March 4th. That's really what we're looking at, I think the June 3rd deadline. So this is the March one, it's just announcement of the beginning to run the 90-day clock.
That's correct. When we file, if the commission approves our proposal to file an advance petition in March, at the same time, we are going to advertise to the public what those proposed rates are. I just want to mention one point that may need correction on page 6 of the order, number 4 at the top of the page. And I know this was an issue in GWA's petition. It says here March 4, 2020.
I've already changed it.
I guess the only other issue is if you weren't doing the advanced draft petition, we would probably have to wait longer for a lot of the information. We might be waiting until June 3rd. But what you're intending on doing is you're going to be bringing forward information to our ALJ and consultants in a quicker fashion, giving us more time for deliberation, 7 months instead of 4.
Yes, Mr. Chair, that's correct.
Probably not a bad idea.
Unless things change,
Unless things change.
then it is not a good.
I don't anticipate that it's a significant change. I'm not getting that feeling that there's going to be a significant change between the advanced draft petition and the petition. I guess we could be surprised. If we were deeply surprised, we'd probably be disappointed too. But I just don't see it.
Well, Mr. Chairman, the only downside, if there were significant changes, the June 3rd filing, that could delay the rate case. And might not be decided by
They might not
the
be
end
in
of
fiscal
September.
year.
So their, GWA is running a risk
Yes, they are.
itself here. It's a self-imposed risk, not a PUC.
And I think all of us in this room understand that right now, don't we? We risk it, if we miss the October 1st deadline, we're going to do our best on our side. But if there's a significant variation between the advanced petition and the final petition, that's a problem. I don't anticipate that.
Why weren't we told this then in October or November, early November? I mean, if the order was done in September, it would seem to me that GWA would have known it would be an issue. Because, I mean, because of procedure, and this is something that PUC has always done. So why weren't we told sooner than December?
The ordering provision was issued on September 28th.
Right.
Before this petition was filed, in December, we did submit a letter to the ALJ and the chairman in early November, November 7th, approximately, just over 30 days. So we didn't intend to delay. And then when we had a discussion with the ALJ, he opined that, it's not proper for an ALJ to reverse any ordering provision that's already been approved by the commission, and that's why this petition was brought in December. So we have ordering provision in September, the month of October passed, and then we provided that letter to the chairman of the ALJ in November, early November. I believe it was dated November 7th or November 8th. And then we had a meeting and a discussion on what could be decided, and it was confirmed, that we needed to bring a petition before the PUC. That was filed in early December, and here we are, December 18th. So we didn't intend for all that time to pass, but we did try to be diligent. And again, it's not as if we were raising it now for the first time in December after September. We didn't mention anything in October, but we were diligent.
And why not? Why not?
November.
Why wasn't anything mentioned in October?
We should have taken a closer look at the statute.
Looking at the history and of what activity took place prior to the last.
So as I mentioned, the first thing I did was I went back to my budget group, told them that they needed to take a look at the calendar that we had developed, thinking that we were gonna file in June, and to see what we could do to accelerate that. At the same time, I went back to take a look at the public law and the PUC protocols to see what were required, and the ratepayers notice jumped out at me. Immediately started talking to our legal counsel, GM, about how we could strategize so that we could meet the timelines. Also knowing that typically the CCU recesses in December, or they don't meet in December, so that would require a special meeting if we decided, because the CCU would have to approve the plan before we would do the public notice. So, we spent time in October kind of outlining all the different steps that needed to be taken so that we could, to see if we could possibly meet the deadline contained in the order. And when we did
Did you notice the ratepayers will rights timeline? Was that in October?
Yeah, almost immediately.
Okay. It was 30 days, and the letter was written to the chair in November. I just think this advanced petition is just something that's, we've never had that before, and now we're going to do this. And if what Tom had said was June, was when they filed a petition for the last one. Why do we need an advance petition, a draft petition? I just makes sense.
Basically, 18 days. We stuck with 18 days. If they're going to try to fall in January, which is ready to come into force and say, get to it.
So file it in June and then you get the rest of this, and if anything you're going with that, it is on that.
What we are suggesting is that instead of an advance draft petition, you would just make your public announcement March 4th. You know, still be providing us information.
Not the same amount at all. The public notice, as I said, is very short, usually only 2 or 3 paragraphs saying, here are the rates we're going to charge for each year, the 5-year plan, any specific areas that they want to increase rates, rate design, or whatever else they plan. But the notice is that's not really very helpful for the commission to proceed on, because it just states a bottom line number, but it doesn't state any of the reasoning, it doesn't have the schedules attached. The petition, and probably even in advance draft petition, will have schedules attached to how TWA arrives at the rate figures. So that from a knowledge point of view for the commission, although an advance rate, the draft petition is not final, that's something to begin looking at least would give the commission some idea of how GWA arrived at those rates. So that would be much superior than just public notice.
Like we probably said we never got anything to the end of it.
My understanding is that you're going to, with the public notice, you're going to turn in a draft petition, or you're turning in the actual petition in March as well, or in April, or you're doing public notice, or getting it in April.
But that's new. It wasn't under the past. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So the one get the opportunity to consultants.
They want to bring forward the information in quicker time frame. That's what this is.
Questions or additional information
I think the ALJ and the consultants will find that useful, to get more of an idea. I've also proposed some other aspects, such as conferences in tandem between our consultants, TWAs, expedite flow of information. It's true that petitions have often been filed on June 1st, but in the last 5-year rate case, there wasn't sufficient time to decide the case by the end of 2021. Yeah, the rates of 2022. So having additional time to work on it is helpful for the PUC and the consultants, and it will create more likelihood that PUC could meet in September 30, 2024 deadline. But without that, if there's no kind of petition filed on March 4th, the PUC won't have anything to know. And then it really will be, have to wait for June, and then we're in a time bind already. Because these 5-year rate cases, 4 months is cutting really tight, believe that. Discovery.
On the front end of the first year of the 5-year rate case, the extra 3 months of discovery and discussions would be very beneficial for everybody. I see that. The other thing to be aware of is, as Rowena has indicated, is this is a new little wrinkle we've added in the process. Yeah. And then this may be something that becomes a feature in all rate cases, which might not necessarily be a bad thing, having extra time for discovery.
May I suggest that if it's the intention for the PC to require an earlier filing, then, they can certainly make it part of the protocol so that we can plan in advance, so that if we knew that we needed to file in March or April or May, that we could work backwards to ensure that, we do all the proper notices and procedures to meet that.
Yes, I think it already indicated you can't make April.
No, I'm talking about moving forward, if the intention is to provide additional time for the, for the PZ and staff to review the rate filing, then if we knew, if we could plan that it was going to be in April instead of June, then we would just start the process earlier so that we could meet the January.
But if an agency already knows that a 5-year rate plan is going to be needed, isn't that something that you would prepare for anyway?
Right. Yeah, so we were preparing for it to be filed in June. Because that's, that was the typical process.
Then happened that wasn't brought up during our conversation, our discussion in September, before that order was done. See, that's the clincher right there. And how straightforward will GWA be in providing information that the AOJ or the consultants may need? Because my understanding is that some of the delay, as was attributed to GWA's PUC, is because of the kind of information that was being requested. Have we yet seen the RAM model that was used for the true-up the last time?
I will
like to
check
take
with
a
the
look at that.
consultants.
I'd like to see that.
I think my understanding is that it's worked better, and in the true-up proceeding, I'm not aware of any problems.
There's two things here. I think Colin was suggested, is the PC going to make it April 1st for any future rate requests, 5-year rate requests, and if we're going to allow draft petitions to be filed, but that would only be for informational purposes, because I don't know how you could go into discovery if something's not a final document. From a story perspective, that can happen with an advanced draft petition.
No, there should be enough, as I said. They've already, GWA's agreed. We have our rules of practice and procedures. They refer to a number of different schedules that have to be attached to a petition, except for income, revenues, appreciation, all these different aspects. So I think from what we're saying, there would be at least something, might be preliminary, but we would get the information, at least some of the information that you would ordinarily need in your rate case. And that would be helpful. So I think, if, as they say, it's pretty much a full filing and includes all the relevant information, that should assist the AOJ and the consultants in proceeding it.
And if it were not to be, they're the ones that are going to be taking big hits. But there's a stark difference between the advanced.
I'd like to answer Commissioner's question about why it wasn't brought up in September further. We welcome the earlier date. We did, and we still do. We're actually proposing an even earlier date than April 1st. We're proposing to file a draft petition, which in all respects should be as close as possible to the final filing. And it is just to allow the PUC to have sufficient time to review. And we are completely on board with those days. It is just that, when we confirmed all of the legal requirements, we will not make the 90-day requirement. To have that March 4 or even an April 1st filing be a final filing, because we're not prepared to issue a public notice, in a couple of weeks. And so, but we will be happy if the PUC would receive the advance petition, begin a review, allow sufficient time, and the chairman is correct. If there is a stark difference from what is filed, based on reviews or based on, changes, then we will fully be responsible for, the outcome of additional time for review. And we did put that in the petition. Once the final filing has been made, and we recognize and we understand that the PUC will have the ability to continue its review, and really depending on how far the review has gone and whether or not we've made any change would affect, the outcome of whether or not a decision could be made before the start of the new fiscal year and before the start of the 5-year rate plan.
I think first and foremost is to make sure that ratepayers' bill of rights are met. I just, if we're gonna do this advanced petition, then it's just something that's gonna have to be allowed for other agencies as well.
That's up to us to decide.
So,
We're gonna find out whether this is in fact a law. Maybe, I think it might be. More information sooner. You make a motion with that? Any other comments from the commission?
What's the alternative?
The alternative is that you just make a public announcement. And there's not a lot to that as present. There's very little discovery in it. So we basically are sitting and waiting until
Those advantageous for us to report to this.
especially at the beginning of the 5-year rate case.
So over and beyond your changes that turn late word legal to appropriate. And then are we still striking all the individual things? I think we're covered.
a friend who said that when they do this advanced draft petition, if we allow it, any information that you look for, are you able to start your discovery with them?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yes, I think so, definitely.
Good, and from that, I motion to approve the docket, docket 1908 with the changes discussed earlier.
The change of the word illegal to inappropriate. Ms. Christian. Is there a second to that motion? Gabriel seconds. All in favor, say aye. Everybody said aye? Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Next item. Mr. Veggie wants to be excused.
I'm sorry, I'm going to have to excuse myself because I have to get up at 3 a.m. tomorrow, so if you're.
And he hasn't packed.
I I have to finish my packing, and I wish you all a Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
Grant safe travels and a very Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good evening.
And the next item is GWA docket 2401, petition to ratify and approve an increase for GWA's conflicts and outside counsel. For GWA RFP
Gonna give them to you.
2018
There are only two.
for
The only
CV
changes
1198.
are inappropriate, period.
We have a legal counsel report.
And then there was a little error on the date.
Yes, Mr. Chair, and I know this is the last docket, so we'll try to go through that quickly, but as thoroughly.
There's my other pen, I found it, it's hiding.
The bottom line in this case is that GWA is requesting the PUC to do two things.
Take
So
it out.
it has this contract for conflicts legal counsel services. That contract was awarded, at least in part to Attorney Vincent Leon Guerrero. This is the first time this is coming before the PUC. And the bottom line is they have overspent their $1 million review threshold by the amount of $438, or $438.21.20. So they are asking the PUC to ratify that amount they spent over the threshold. The second thing they're asking is to increase, or get the authority for the PUC to increase the spending under this contract up to $1 million. Now, the big driver of costs is this one case. That's the government of Guam, Michael B. Borja, as Director of Department of Land Management, GWA, all versus Cortec International Corporation, and Unix Enterprises Corporation, and that's CD 1198-18, hence that's where the case number comes from. That's in the Superior Court of Guam. Now, you may have already heard about this case. This has made the news from time to time. This case has been around since 2018. It's a pretty massive case. It's a pretty massive and complex piece of litigation. Bottom line, it's a complex land dispute wherein Department of Land Management is trying to revoke certificates of ownership and transfers that it issued to Cortec Corporation and Yonex, maybe some others, for the real estate where GWA's northern wastewater treatment plant sits. That's the bottom line. Now, on top of that claim that GWA, the government of Guam, has against Cortec and Yonex, they have counterclaimed for the amount of $220 million in damages. That's their counterclaim. So it's kind of an all or nothing deal, regardless of how the Superior Court of Guam rules, whichever side doesn't win, they're going to appeal it to the Supreme Court of Guam, and it might get appealed thereafter. So where the case sits now is, I think there were a bunch of motions to dismiss which were filed. I believe they were filed by Cortec, Yonex. The court has ruled on them, semi in GWA's favor, semi in Cortec's favor. They did deny the motions to dismiss, and this is going to proceed to trial at some point. Now, I did confer with GWA's legal counsel. She did provide me some of the pleadings. Yes, they are extensive. Mr. Leon Guerrero is only billing about $200 an hour, but I believe he's either got or procured co-counsel, Calvo Jacobs Fisher, I think, law firm. Mr. Hangman is not here. He's a member of that law firm. They bill at different rates, anywhere from $200. They get a partner working on it, $400 per hour. And as a result of the motions back and forth, you can kind of see how this contract ballooned. So from May 2018 to May 2019, GWA only paid $6,316 or so dollars. But from June of 2019 to May of 2020, GWA paid $235,643. From June 2020 to May 2021, GWA paid $85,337. From June 2021 to May 2022, GWA paid $429,672. From June 2022 to November 2023, GWA paid $681,000. So you can kind of see this is ebb and flowing with this one huge case. There are other cases here. For example, the petition, they state about 200 or so thousand comes from the consent decree work. This particular contract is also shared by GPA and the CCU, but we're only talking here about what GWA itself has paid. So that's kind of why this case is pretty much ballooned way out of the $1 million mark for GWA. A little bit about the ratification. So they're not really supposed to be doing this. The contract review protocol is pretty clear that they are supposed to get prior PUC approval, okay, before the contract exceeds $1 million. We kind of saw GWA do it the right way when they came here before they spent the extra money on their diesel fuel contract for the generators. They were here first to get their approval before they exceeded the $1.5 million mark. They were expecting to do it. That's the way it should be done. That's not what happened here. In fact, the way it looks is around November of 2022, that's when they hit the $1 million mark. And so November 2022, for their own petition, they either knew or they should have known that, hey, they're going to go past the review protocol, yet the CCU did not authorize them to go before the PUC. So July 25th, 2023, this petition was not filed until November, not November, to be accurate here, December the 16th of 2023. That's when it was filed. So there is that particular issue. How I recommend that particular issue or delay be resolved is you could approve the $438,000 or so they spent over, but you can also require them every year. They're supposed to file an estimated cost for the next year. And if that cost is going to exceed, should you approve the extra $1 million that they're requesting, that amount, they're supposed to come before you before then and request approval for any spending in excess to that $1 million. So I did put that in my recommendation, and I also put that in the proposed order. Otherwise, this is a critical case for GWA. The Northern Wastewater Treatment Center, what could happen in this particular case, the worst case scenario, is the court rules in Cortex's favor and Yonex' favor, and GWA either has to buy the land back with the facility from Cortex or Yonex, or literally find another plot of land and rebuild this multi-million-dollar facility, which is critical not just for the people of Guam, but also for the Guam building. That's where all the wastewater and Camp Laws is supposed to go, but it's a lot. So that's kind of the situation we find ourselves in. Hence, it's the issue is, do we defend or do we prosecute this case? GWA has to, in my opinion. It's prudent to do so. Just to value the assets to avoid the $220 million potential liability. And it's necessary because that facility is one of the linchpins of Guam's wastewater system. Without it, we're left with the Anya, we're left with some of the smaller ones that probably aren't going to cut it. So I did submit the order basically granting their request with that proviso that every year they file that estimate. And subject to your questions, thank you for hearing.
Thanks, Anthony. Any comments, Jason?
Thank you, Chair. So I just wanted to highlight the amount that Attorney Camacho went over in Exhibit 802 of our petition. It's apparent that there wasn't much cost that went into this case billed to Attorney Vincian Guerrero. And I want to mention that at the beginning of this matter, when GWA did petition to quiet title and intervene in the matter, because the matter was originally filed by the Department of Land Management to rescind the certificate of title that Cortec possesses, and then GWA intervened in quiet title. It was largely handled in-house. A lot of the work and the research on, the land, the certificate of title, were all performed by GWA land agents. And it wasn't until the case, of course, there was a counterclaim for the $220 million. And as the case grew and grew and became more complex, we did require the assistance of more co-counsel and a larger team of attorneys in order to continue to defend the case. But from 2018 up through July of this year, because the CCU resolution was actually passed in July of 2023, the law firm of attorney Vincent Leon Guerrero had only been paid $1.1 million over the course of 5 years for this litigation. So that I wanted to point out to the commissioners is a really conservative amount considering really the amount of time and all of the work that's gone into the case. But there is a lot more ahead. We continue to push forward in the trial court, pre-trial, and several motions have been filed. There are motions now pending still for the court. There is no trial date set because issues continue to arise. So we do require the PUC's consideration for approval on the contract because it clearly has already exceeded the $1 million mark, and we predict that it will continue. The legal fees will continue to increase as long as the case remains open and active. It could be that the court could make her final motions and the matter could be set for trial this year. It is possible, but there's been many unpredictable twists and turns by all of the parties because this is very high stakes litigation. And the Cortec legal team has done everything they can to try and preserve their claim against GWA for over $200 million. So I can end there and answer any other questions from the commissioners. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thanks, Chris. Any questions from the commissioners on this? Dennis, go ahead.
So the case is land management issued a certificate of title where the order is treated sits and to Cortec.
Before the wastewater treatment plant was built?
No, it's a little more convoluted than that. Correct me if I'm wrong, I just, it seems to, it goes back to Chamorro Land Trust, right? And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, so what happened was, this was excess land, and I believe it was given to an estate, is that correct?
That is Cortec's argument.
Yeah,
This is
yeah.
public property, so Cortec created the story that it is gone from the public domain into private hands, and that was through a transfer through the Guam Ancestral Lands Commission.
Yeah, and then, and so the estate then reportedly sold this lot where Cortec, or not Cortec, but where the GWA's facility sits, to Cortec, and I believe the Onyx. And then they got a certificate of title pursuant to that sale issued from the Department of Land Management. I have to say, my 30 years of practicing law here, I've never seen a case like this. And I've seen some really strange cases. Okay. So that's kind of what happened. Yes. Cortec, yes. No, it came from the sale of the property, I think, from that estate after they got it to Cortec.
So when did GWA build the wastewater treatment plant?
Well, this is going, that thing's been there, I want to say from the 1970s, I think it was. And it was recently refurbished with federal funds.
Yeah, so state of the art now.
Yeah, because we also, they also extended the outfall, they increased the type of cleaning, whatever they do up there, all in anticipation of the military building.
Right.
That was quite a while ago. So that's kind of the situation. And that's kind of, yes, there are certificates of title.
And what are the dates, the dates of those certificates of title?
I didn't go that far, I just kind of scanned over it because the pleadings are voluminous pleadings, voluminous exhibits.
It should be 2014.
So other than Attorney Vincent Guerrero, there's mentioned that there's other firms involved
Yes,
that are helping with GWA.
yes.
Attorney Vincia Guerrero contracted additional co-counsel. And that is the Cabo Jacob Tankerman firm now.
Was that with the approval of CWA?
It was with the approval of the board. This contract permitted Attorney Leon Guerrero to hire co-counsel as needed. And for years, in this litigation, he and GWA's in-house counsel, my predecessor, Attorney Kelly Clark, handled the matter until I believe it was 2021, late 2021. Additional co-counsel is brought on.
Not only with the additional cost of 400,000 plus, they're okay with filing an annual estimations of what the following years it costs.
Yes, we're happy to do so. We do want to keep on track. There were many deadlines in the court in late 2022 when we exceeded the $1 million mark, and we were trying to determine how much had been spent on this contract solely for the Fortec case in early 2023. And after we gathered all the figures, we were ready to go to the CCU, but we are absolutely happy to provide the report every May as recommended by the ALJ to ensure that we keep on track and not exceed any amount that the PUC will authorize or has already authorized.
Yeah, there's a question on cost. When we go or the federal government pay, CWA to do this project?
We did, are you talking about the Northern Treatment Plant?
Yeah.
Yes. We received,
How much did they pay us for the pay?
179 million in order to upgrade the Northern wastewater treatment plant.
That was to rehabilitate it in anticipation of the military deployment.
Is there, I guess, if you are read here, is there a chance that the government might be able to help us pay? It's your project.
One of the requirements for federal funds is you have to have, or the agency receiving it, more or less, has to have title or has to have a legal claim to land that it sits on to construct anything. And in this case, one of the things that the court did rule on, recent motions to dismiss, like I said, there's some there that was in GWA's favor, there was some that was in Fortec's favor, but they did conclusively rule that GWA had title, I think, to the property, right? So now where that goes from there, that's a good question because there are all these other rules. I don't want to get into them, but this is stuff you learned in law school, like where, somebody steals your house by having fictitious documents and then they sell it to a third party who doesn't know it. That's a third party buyer. It's one of the defenses you might have against the seller. Might not necessarily go to the buyer in good faith, as they call it. So these are some of the hurdles that GWA is facing here. So that's kind of the fact pattern that we have in this particular case.
I can understand that because I was in the CCU when this thing was first. And recommendation at that time was so good. Yeah. Shut up.
Don't do that.
Don't do the project.
Don't do the renovation.
Because it's a marine project, they could have hired AV or CC or engineer. They didn't have to do it. They could, you could move down the sewer or line all the way down to the station. They have their own sewer system. I think somehow, something. I'm kind of curious.
So before us is, obviously, we want to protect the interest of GWA or help them, at least like this case, right? Because, but it's, right now, it's a private lawsuit against GWA for the 220 million, right? So we want to like, we won't do that. So,
This project handles both military and civilian locations. No, it handles the civilian wastewater from up in the north.
That project already was done. Which is the new.
I'm talking about the old one.
Yeah, no. Separation of the northern treatment plant happened to protect the family. And they broke down the airport.
Yeah, part of this project is they refurbish the main sewage line coming down to the north from Anderson. It also has laterals running into the local community also. No, this is a new line. Anyway, let's look at the docket in front of us.
Anyway, we need to, it seems like we obviously have to continue fighting this because we don't want to have $220 million on repairs. So I'm going to approve GWA document 2041.
Thank you, Pete. Is there a second to that motion? Joe seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous? Unanimous. And,
Good luck, GWA.
TWA, there's just two other items, not dockets, just informational. TWA's filing of fiscal year 2023 approved contracts and obligations, and also GWA water loss control programs status report. Do you want to make any comments on those this evening, or you want to wait till Miguel comes back in January?
We can just, mind we can wait till January. Sure.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Have a very Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
There's one final administrative matter. Fiscal year 2023 PUC annual report. It's in our binders, I believe, so you can just take your time to review that. We submit this to the legislature and the governor's office every year. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second, all in favor, say aye. Thank you, everybody. Merry Christmas.
Thank you.